He left me on our honeymoon, walked away from our Maui suite, and flew straight to his 23-year-old intern. But the real betrayal wasn't the affair. It was the discovery when I got home. He hadn't just left me. He'd stolen our company, locked me out, and ruined my reputation. They thought I was finished. They were wrong. The silence in the suite was louder than the ocean. We were in paradise, a wraparound lanai overlooking the water in Maui, flowers blooming everywhere, and my husband hadn't looked at me in 2 days. Leo just stared at his phone, his thumb moving in that obsessive scrolling rhythm. Every time I spoke, he'd flinch, like my voice was an irritation. "Leo, talk to me," I finally said, my stomach twisting. "This is our honeymoon. What is so important on that phone?" He set the phone face down on the glass table. The silence stretched again, thick and suffocating. "I made a mistake," he said, his voice flat. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking past me, at the perfect blue horizon. A mistake, like booking the wrong restaurant. My laugh was brittle. "Leo, you're scaring me. Is it the company? Is something wrong back in Austin?" "No." He finally turned his head. His eyes were cold, emptied of everything I recognized. Us. The wedding. All of it. My breath hitched. This was just anxiety. Post-wedding jitters. That had to be it. "Honey, it's normal to feel overwhelmed. We just made this huge commitment. But we love each other. We can talk through this." "I can't," he cut me off. "Because I don't." The words didn't compute. They just hung in the humid air. "I'm in love with someone else," he said. I felt the blood drain from my face. I gripped the arm of the patio chair, my knuckles white. "What?" "It's Chloe. Chloe, our intern. The 23-year-old from UT who shadowed me. The one I'd personally mentored at Ethelred. The company we built from nothing." I remembered her, all big eyes and ambition. I'd thought she was bright. I'd been a fool. "How long?" I whispered. 6 months, he said, unapologetic. I wanted to throw up. All the late nights at the office he'd claimed, the investor dinners I wasn't invited to. It all clicked into place, a horrifying, perfect picture. "And she's on her way here," Leo said, picking up his phone again, as if checking her flight status. "I booked her ticket last night. She lands in 3 hours. The world tilted. He wasn't just confessing, he was replacing me. Right here, right now. "I need you to leave the suite. Maya," he said. "I'll cover your flight home." He was kicking me out, of our honeymoon. I looked at him, searching for the man I'd married just days ago, the man I'd founded a company with, the man who'd held my hand and wept while we said our vows. He was gone. In his place was this cold, efficient stranger. Shock is a strange anesthetic. It makes you functional. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood up, my legs shaking, and walked into the bedroom. I pulled my new suitcase from the closet, the one with the just married tag still looped on the handle. I started pulling my clothes from the drawers, folding them mechanically. My hands were trembling so hard I could barely zip the bag. The worst part was the staff. The pity. I called the front desk for a bellman, my voice a strained, polite croak. The young man who arrived averted his eyes, pretending not to see my tear-streaked face or the fact that the groom was sitting on the patio, already ordering a drink from room service. He loaded my bags onto the cart. I walked out of that suite, past the untouched champagne bucket, past the wilting tropical flowers. I walked through the lobby, a ghost in paradise, surrounded by smiling couples holding hands. I got into the town car alone. The entire flight back to Austin. I sat numb, staring out the window at the clouds. Next to me, hanging in its pristine garment bag, was my wedding dress. The ride from the airport was a blur. I kept my phone off. I couldn't handle the idea of seeing photos from our wedding, or worse, a text from him. Part of me, the stupid, desperate part, was clinging to the hope that this was a horrific, temporary psychotic break, that I would get home to our Austin penthouse and find him there, weeping, apologetic, a long letter explaining everything. I paid the cab driver, my hands fumbling with the credit card. I still had the wedding dress slung over my arm in its garment bag. I let myself into the apartment, my keys feeling foreign in my hand. "Leo," I called out. The silence was absolute, but it was a different kind of silence. It was empty. My gaze swept the living room. His Eames chair was gone. The custom-built media console, gone. The bar cart he loved, with its collection of obscenely expensive whiskey, gone. I walked, slowly, into our home office. It was ransacked, but not by a thief. It was a selective, meticulous clearing. His high-end workstation, his ergonomic chair, all gone. The filing cabinet where we kept our shared financials and corporate documents was still there, but the lock was broken, and it was completely empty. He had taken everything. The original incorporation papers for Ethelred, the investor agreements, our tax returns. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a panicked bird in a tiny cage. This wasn't a man running away for love. This was a man covering his tracks. I ran to our bedroom. His closet was empty. Every suit, every pair of polished shoes, every one of his stupid, pretentious watches gone. He had packed. He had planned this while he was smiling at me at the altar, while he was dancing with my mother. I threw the wedding dress on the floor. I had to get to the office. This wasn't a marriage problem anymore. This was a company problem. I was still co-founder. I was chief technology officer. He couldn't just take the files. I drove my own car, which he'd thankfully left, and sped downtown, my mind racing. I was still in my travel clothes, wrinkled and smelling like airplane air. I didn't care. I parked in my reserved spot, right next to his, which was, of course, empty. I walked into the lobby, the familiar cool air hitting my face, the smell of fresh coffee and new carpet, my building, my company. I swiped my security card at the elevator bank. A red light flashed, a harsh, buzzing noise. Access denied. I swiped it again, harder, scraping the plastic. Access denied. My face burned. The receptionist, a new guy I didn't recognize, was watching me. "Ms. Sterling, is there a problem?" "My card isn't working," I said, trying to keep my voice even. He typed something, his brow furrowed. "Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Sterling. Your access seems to have been suspended." "Suspended by who?" I laughed, a sharp, hysterical sound. "I am the access. I built this system. Get me our CFO. Get me Mark." "I'm sorry. I can't." I pushed past him, ignoring his calls, and pulled out my cell phone, my fingers jabbing Mark's number. Mark had been with us for 5 years. He was my friend. We'd pulled all-nighters together. He would know what was happening. It rang once, then clicked. Straight to voicemail. "Mark, it's Maya. Call me. Now. My card is turned off and Leo." My voice broke. I hung up. What was I even saying? And then, my phone buzzed with a new email. The notification flashed on the screen. From Ethelred System Administrator Subject. Notice of System Access Suspension. I opened it, my blood turning to ice. Per the directive of CEO Leo Vance, all system and building access for Maya Sterling has been suspended indefinitely, effective immediately. All company property must be returned. It was an automated message, a corporate execution. I stumbled back out into the Texas heat, the sun blinding me. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't an impulsive, cruel breakup. This was a coup. He hadn't just left me. He had erased me. I don't remember driving to Evelyn's house. I must have. But the entire 20-minute drive across town is a black hole in my memory. I just remember standing on her porch, ringing the bell over and over, my fist starting to pound on the solid wood. The door flew open. Evelyn Reed stood there in a sharp blazer, briefcase in hand, clearly on her way out. She's a corporate litigator, all sharp angles and sharper intellect. She took one look at my face, my wrinkled travel clothes, my bare ring finger, the wild look in my eyes, and her expression went from annoyed to alarmed. Maya, what happened? Where's Leo? Aren't you supposed to be in Maui? That's when the dam broke. The shock that had kept me functional evaporated, and the full weight of the last 24 hours crushed me. I collapsed. I mean, literally, my legs gave out, and I fell forward into her entryway, sobbing. Not crying, but a raw, animal wail of grief and terror. Evelyn didn't panic. She just kicked the door shut, dropped her briefcase, and half-dragged, half-carried me to her leather sofa. She pushed my head down toward my knees. Breathe, Maya, just breathe. You're hyperventilating, she ordered, her voice firm but not unkind. Now tell me, from the beginning. It all came out in a torrent, a messy, incoherent flood of words. Maui. The phone. I made a mistake. Chloe. She's on her way here. The bellman's pity. The empty penthouse. The locked filing cabinet. The red light at the elevator. Access denied. The email. Through it all, Evelyn was quiet. She went to her desk, pulled out a yellow legal pad, and started writing. She didn't offer sympathy or platitudes. She just listened, her pen scratching across the paper, her brow furrowed in intense concentration. When I finally finished, exhausted and gasping, she just stared at the pad for a full minute. Okay, she said, her voice dangerously calm. He didn't just leave you. He declared war. She turned to her laptop, her fingers flying across the keys. I'm going to make some calls. I know people at the State Corporation Commission, and I'm pulling every public filing on Ethelred. You and Leo are the only two on the founding charter, right? Yes, I whispered, my voice raw. 50-50. We built it from my algorithm, from my code. He was just the face. 50-50 is bad, she muttered. It means deadlock. But his locking you out? That's a massive breach of fiduciary duty. He can't just suspend a co-founder. She was on the phone for the next hour, pacing her office, using legal jargon I could barely follow. She was ruthless, calling in favors, demanding answers. I just sat on her couch, shivering, wrapped in a blanket she'd thrown over me. Finally, she hung up the phone and looked at me, her face pale. Evie, what is it? He can, she said softly. He thinks he can. Do you remember the amended partnership agreement, the one you signed about a month ago? I frowned. The one right before the wedding. He said it was just a formality. Something about adding the new VC investors, clarifying the board structure. I was swamped with the wedding plans. I just signed it. Evelyn closed her eyes for a second. Maya. He embedded a key person and incapacity clause. Section 4B. It gives one partner unilateral authority to temporarily suspend the other's operational duties if they are deemed to be a danger to the company's stability. A danger I am the company. The clause is triggered, Evelyn continued, reading from her screen, by documented erratic behavior and proven mental or emotional instability. I just stared at her. What documented behavior? I've been working 80-hour weeks to get our last release out. Evelyn looked up from her screen, and her eyes were filled with a cold fury I had never seen. He's using the honeymoon. Maya. The room spun. He filed an emergency motion with the board, which is just him, you, and the two new VCs who are in his pocket. He presented evidence of your instability. He told them he had to gently end things on the honeymoon, and you had a complete, violent breakdown. That you threatened him, that you threatened to destroy the company. He's using your reaction to him abandoning you as the legal justification to lock you out. I couldn't speak. He hadn't just planned his exit. He had planned my implosion. He had set the fire and then framed me for arson, all while I was crying in an airport terminal. He baited you, Evelyn said, her voice a low growl. And now he has proof that you're too unstable to run the company you built. He's a fool, I whispered, my voice hoarse. Maya, he's a monster, but he's not stupid, Evelyn said, already looking up corporate filing statutes. No, he's a fool, I repeated, a cold, hard clarity cutting through the panic. He's an idiot. Leo doesn't know how Ethelred works. I do. He's the face, the salesman. He charms investors and takes clients to $1,000 dinners. But I built the engine. I wrote the first line of code and every critical line after it. Evelyn stopped typing. What does that mean? It means he locked me out of the front door. He didn't even know there was a back door. A memory surfaced, sharp and clear. 3 years ago, during our Series A funding, we'd had a security scare. A disgruntled contractor tried a ransomware attack. After I neutralized it, I built a ghost protocol, a deep system access key that was completely off-network, invisible to any admin logs. It was my emergency kill switch. I never told Leo about it. He wouldn't have understood it, anyway. Give me your laptop, I said, and I need a secure line. Evelyn handed over her high-end work laptop without a word. It's on a VPN. Will that work? It's better, I said. My fingers flew across the keyboard, my old muscle memory taking over. I opened a terminal window, the comforting black screen with its green cursor. I wasn't Maya Sterling, the abandoned wife. I was the architect. I routed my connection through 3 different anonymous servers before I even touched the Ethelred mainframe. I entered the 32-character alphanumeric string, the failsafe key. The system paused. I held my breath. Then, the single word I was praying for. Authenticated. I was in, not as a suspended user, but as the super admin. I had access to everything, every email, every file, every chat log. What are you seeing? Evelyn asked, leaning over my shoulder. I'm going straight to his server-side email, I muttered, and hers. I pulled up Leo's sent items, and Chloe's. I didn't bother with keywords like love or affair. I searched for Section 4B, partnership, Vance, and restructure. There it was, an email thread between Leo and a lawyer, not our corporate lawyer from 6 months ago. The subject, partnership dissolution strategy. My blood ran cold. He wasn't in love with Chloe 6 months ago. He was planning to steal my company 6 months ago. Chloe wasn't the reason. She was just a tool. I clicked on their internal chat logs. My hands were shaking again, but this time with rage, not grief. Leo, March 14. The new VC clause is our opening. We just need a trigger. Chloe, March 14. She's so stressed about the wedding. You could use that. Leo, March 15. Mental instability. It's perfect. She'll be a mess when I tell her. We just have to time it right. Chloe, March 15. Make sure you get her to sign the amended agreement first. We need that incapacity clause. I had to look away from the screen. I felt bile rise in my throat. They had discussed it. They had planned my emotional breakdown like a quarterly business projection. My God, Evelyn breathed, reading over my shoulder. They're not just lovers, Maya. They're conspirators. It's worse, I said, my voice dead. I was digging deeper now, into the financial servers. Leo's access was broad, but mine was total. I looked at the client payment portals. SilverArc Industries, our biggest account, a $15 million a year contract. The payments for the last 2 quarters hadn't gone to Ethelred's corporate account. He set up a shell, I whispered. I followed the routing numbers. Vance Innovations, LLC, registered in Delaware. He's been diverting client payments. He's been bleeding our company dry for months. Evelyn was already scribbling on her legal pad. That's not a breach of contract. That's wire fraud. That's a felony. But the final blow was yet to come. I went to the core database, the repository for our source code, my algorithm. The proprietary tech that made us billions. The code I had spent 3 years of my life developing, sleeping on a cot in our first office. It was gone. No, not gone. It had been copied. The log showed a full system clone initiated from Leo's admin account, dated just 2 days before our wedding. He had packaged up my entire life's work, ready to deploy it as his own. I finally understood. He didn't just want me out of the company. He wanted the company itself, without me in it. He'd left me in Maui, locked me out, and framed me as unstable, all to cover the greatest heist of his life, the theft of my mind. I closed the laptop, the click echoing in the quiet room. The sobbing, broken woman from an hour ago was gone. "Evie," I said, my voice quiet and sharp as glass. "I don't just want to sue him, I want to ruin him." It took less than 48 hours for the world to turn on me. Evelyn and I were still huddled in her home office, mapping out the fraud case, when her phone buzzed with an alert. She glanced at it, and her face went rigid. "Don't look at this," she said, which was, of course, the first thing that made me grab my own phone. The text was from a former colleague. It was a link. The headline was from Austin Tech Beat, the city's biggest tech blog, the one that had celebrated us, that had put Leo and me on their 30 Under 30 cover 3 years ago. The headline read, "The Ethelred Implosion, When Love and Code Collide." My hands were shaking so badly I could barely read the subheader. Sources report co-founder Maya Sterling suspended indefinitely after erratic behavior threatens the company's future, following a gentle rejection from CEO husband Leo Vance. "Gentle rejection," I whispered. My stomach turned. I clicked the link. The article was a masterpiece of character assassination, and it had Leo's fingerprints all over it. It was full of anonymous insider quotes. It was a tragedy. One source close to the couple said, "Leo is a visionary, but Maya was always the volatile one. He was trying to manage her expectations, and she just snapped." Another employee mentioned I'd become obsessive and paranoid in the weeks before the wedding, claiming I was jealous of the new talent Leo was bringing in, clearly a jab about Chloe. The article painted him as the tragic hero, the stable CEO forced to make an impossible choice between his erratic wife and the company he loved. It spun my justifiable rage at being locked out of my own building as a violent outburst and proof of my instability. They were using the very framework he'd built to frame me. He hadn't just abandoned me, he was publicly crucifying me. "He fed them this," I said, my voice hollow. "Every word. He's been planning this narrative for months. He's controlling the story." "Maya," Evelyn said, her voice tight with fury. "And he did it first." The fallout was immediate. The comment section was a sewer of tech bro speculation and armchair psychology. She always seemed too intense. Classic case of a woman scorned trying to burn it all down. Poor Leo, having to clean up her mess. I was toxic. In a single morning. I had been rewritten from a visionary CTO to a crazy ex-wife. And then, the final execution. At 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again. It was a push alert, not from a blog, but from the Austin Business Journal. Silver Arc Industries terminates $15 million contract with Ethelred, citing leadership instability. Silver Arc, our cornerstone client, the one whose payments Leo had already started stealing. He had engineered this. He knew they would pull the contract. He probably wanted them to. It made my suspension look justified. It made him look like the victim of my instability. I was getting emails and texts, but they weren't supportive. They were from acquaintances in the industry, asking, "What the hell happened?" I could feel the invisible walls going up. I was no longer Maya Sterling, the co-founder. I was a liability, a risk. I tried calling Mark, our CFO, again. This time, it didn't even go to voicemail. The number was disconnected. He'd either been fired or he was in on it. I tried a few other senior engineers I'd trusted, people I'd mentored. Their calls went to voicemail. No one called back. I was radioactive. This was the bottom, the absolute crushing rock bottom. In the span of 1 week, I had lost my husband, my home, my company, and now, my name. Leo hadn't just stolen my code. He had stolen my reputation. He'd left me with nothing, no job, no references, and a public label of being emotionally unstable and vindictive. In the small, incestuous world of Austin Tech, I was finished, blacklisted. I looked at Evelyn, the phone hanging uselessly in my hand. The despair was a physical weight, pressing down on my chest, making it impossible to breathe. I had nothing left to lose. And that, I realized, was the first good news I'd had all day. I sat there on Evelyn's couch, the phone dark in my hand. The quiet in the room was absolute. The panic was gone. The grief, the weeping, the desperate, hollowed-out feeling of loss, it all evaporated. It was like watching ice form on a window pane, a slow, crystalline freeze. Every ounce of pain I felt was crystallizing into something new, something hard and sharp. It was rage, a pure, cold, silent rage that was almost peaceful in its certainty. "He ruined my career," I said, my voice so quiet Evelyn had to lean in. "So I'm going to ruin his empire." Evelyn's legal mind immediately went to the obstacles. "Maya, a civil suit for breach of contract and wrongful termination will take years. He's got the company, which means he has the corporate bank account. He'll bury us in motions. He'll drag this out until you're broke and exhausted. It's a war of attrition, and he just stole all the ammunition." I stood up. I felt calm for the first time in days. "I'm not talking about a civil suit. Evie, we're not suing him. He committed a crime. Multiple." I walked back to her laptop and opened it. I was done being the victim. I was the architect again. "He didn't just breach his fiduciary duty," I said, pulling up the server access again. "He committed fraud. He's been planning this for at least 6 months. You have to be careful with that word. Maya," she warned. "Fraud is a high bar. A husband and wife fighting over a company. A judge might just see that as a divorce dispute gone nuclear." "A divorce dispute?" I laughed. A short, sharp, ugly sound. "Show me the divorce dispute here." I pulled up the financial records I'd found. The routing numbers for the shell company. Vance Innovations, LLC. This is SilverArc's last payment, $10 million. It was never routed to Ethelred's bank. It was diverted directly into this LLC, an entity he created without my knowledge or consent. That's wire fraud. Evelyn was already looking at the screen, her eyes narrowing. "Okay, that's good. That's very good. But it's not the best part," I said. I navigated to a different folder, the venture capital funds. "We closed our Series B 2 months ago, $25 million, earmarked specifically for R&D and hardware expansion, per the investor agreement." I pulled up the bank statements for that new account. It was not a long list, but it was a damning one. A charge for a new Tesla, $90,000. I knew, instinctively. It was for Chloe. A down payment on a condo at the Independent, Austin's most exclusive high-rise, $600,000. A transfer of $2 million to the new Vance Innovations shell account, which I now saw he'd used to open his new office. "He's not just stealing our money, Evie," I said. "He's stealing our investors' money. He's using VC funds, which are contractually restricted, as his personal piggy bank to buy gifts for his intern and fund his new stolen company. He's not just defrauding me. He's defrauding our entire investment group." Evelyn was silent for a long moment, just staring at the screen. A slow smile spread across her face. "This isn't a divorce dispute," she finally said, her voice full of admiration. "This isn't a partnership disagreement. This is a multi-million-dollar federal crime." "Exactly," I said. "Leo is so arrogant. He thinks he's fighting me, his unstable wife. He's not. He's fighting the United States government. They will put him in prison for this." "Maya," she said, her tone suddenly sober. "You know that. Right. This isn't just getting your company back. This is jail time." I looked at the picture on the TechBeat article, the one of Leo looking like a noble, long-suffering CEO, and I thought about the cold-blooded, detailed plan to use my love and trust against me. I thought about him on that patio in Maui, ordering room service while I packed. "I know," I said. "Let's get started." We couldn't go to the FBI with the financial data alone. Evelyn warned me that corporate fraud cases were slow, a battle of spreadsheets and depositions. Leo would claim it was a partnership dispute, a misallocation of funds. He would tie us up in knots. "We have the what," I told her, pacing her office. "We need the who and how. We need to catch him in the act. We need a second crime, something clear, simple, and undeniable." "He's not stupid enough to do it again," Evelyn argued. "Oh, he absolutely is," I said. "He's arrogant. And more importantly, she is Chloe. She's 23 and thinks she's a genius because she's sleeping with the CEO. He stole my code, but he needs me to maintain it. He's a salesman, not an engineer, and the code he stole will be obsolete in 18 months. They know that." That was the key. Their insecurity. The first step was to disappear. I used the last of my personal savings, the accounts Leo didn't know about, to rent a small, anonymous office space in a bland building out near the Domain. It was a 20 by 20 box with bad fluorescent lighting and high-speed fiber. I paid for 6 months in cash. Under a shell LLC Evelyn had set up for me. I bought new hardware, untraceable, paid for with prepaid cards. I built a ghost network. For all intents and purposes, Maya Sterling had fallen off the face of the earth. The second step was the bait. I needed to let the sharks know I was bleeding in the water. I made a few calls to former colleagues, people I trusted but knew were terrible gossips. I played the part Leo had written for me, the broken, desperate woman. I cried on the phone. I talked about how I had nothing, how he'd taken everything, and then I accidentally let slip the one thing I wasn't supposed to say. "I can't even get a job," I fake-sobbed to one of them. "But it doesn't matter. I'm working on something new. On my own. It's based on the original Ethelred framework, but it's better. Faster. It makes the old system look like a calculator. I'm calling it Ethelred 2.0. I knew that information would get back to Leo before I'd even hung up the phone. The idea of me, defeated and broke, sitting on an algorithm that would make his stolen company worthless, he and Chloe would become obsessed. They wouldn't see it as a threat. They'd see it as one last loose end to tie up. They'd assume they could steal this one, too. The third step was the trap. I built a honeypot on a secure, isolated server. I created a fortress. But the fortress wasn't designed to keep them out. It was designed to watch them break in. I populated the server with junk code, thousands of lines of my old, rejected algorithms, dressed up to look new. It looked like a revolutionary piece of tech, but it was a digital hall of mirrors complex, impressive, and utterly useless. But the security around the fake code was the real weapon. I layered the server with every tracking protocol I knew: packet sniffers, keyloggers, remote access Trojans. The moment they touched the perimeter, I would know. I would have their IP address, their machine ID, and, if they got inside, I would have a screen recording of their every move. The final step was the camouflage. While I was in my anonymous office, building this digital cage, the world needed to see the broken Maya. I reactivated my personal social media, but the powerful CTO was gone. I posted photos of myself at coffee shops, looking tired. I wrote vague, sad captions about new beginnings and finding yourself after loss. I was performing the role of the victim, the woman taking time to heal. I wanted them to see those posts and laugh. I wanted them to feel safe. I wanted their arrogance to swell, to make them sloppy. I finished the honeypot, set the trackers, and posted a picture of a sunset with the caption, "Turning a new page." Then, I sat in my dark office, looking at a blank monitor. All I had to do was wait for the alarm to trip. It was quiet in the anonymous office for 9 days. 9 days of me staring at a dark monitor, drinking stale coffee, and second-guessing every move. The silence was deafening. I was starting to think I'd overestimated his arrogance. Then, on the 10th day, a Tuesday afternoon, my screen lit up. It wasn't a blaring alarm, but a quiet, single line of text in my monitoring log. Inbound ping detected perimeter wall 01. My heart stopped. I sat perfectly still for a second. They were here. I put on my headset and dialed Evelyn. She picked up on the first ring. "I'm in a deposition," she whispered. "Leave it," I said, my voice low and steady. "It's happening. Right now." I heard a muffled apology, a door closing, and then her voice, clear and sharp. "What do you see?" "They're at the outer wall. A brute force attempt. Amateur. They're trying to guess the password." I watched the log scroll. Wait. They stopped. They're trying a different protocol. An SQL injection. It's sloppy. "Is it Leo?" she asked. "No. Leo wouldn't know an SQL injection from a cocktail," I muttered, my fingers flying. I started the IP trace. "He's the money, the mouth. He's not the brain." The trace began its work, bouncing from server to server. He'd hire someone, a professional. This isn't professional. This is someone who thinks they're a professional. The trace resolved. "Got it," I said. "The IP? It's not from the Ethelred building. It's not from his penthouse. It's from a public hotspot, Joe's Coffee on South Congress." I laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. "It's her. It has to be her." "Chloe." "Of course," I said, the psychological profile clicking into place. "She's not just the intern he's sleeping with. She's the intern he's pretending is me. She's the new tech genius. He probably told her about my new project, and she, in her 23-year-old arrogance, told him, 'I can get it for you.' She's not at the office on a secure line. She's at a coffee shop, like some movie hacker, trying to prove her worth." I watched her attempts. She was bypassing the obvious traps, but she was so focused on the code, she wasn't seeing the surveillance I'd built into the very walls of the system. "She's through the first firewall," I told Evelyn. "She's good. She found the vulnerability I left for her." "Should you stop her?" "No," I said, my heart hammering. "I'm not trying to stop her. I'm trying to catch her. I need her inside." I let her struggle for another 10 minutes, just long enough to make her feel like she'd earned it. Then, I remotely opened a secondary port, one that looked like a system flaw. "She found it," I whispered. "She's in." Instantly, my screen split. On one side was my log. On the other was her desktop. I was inside her machine now. I'm enabling the remote screen recorder, audio, and keylogger. I said, "I have her." I watched her cursor move, frantic and excited. She navigated through the decoy file structures. She was looking for the prize. I'd named the folder something obvious, something she couldn't resist. Ethelred V2 Core Algo. Her cursor hovered over it. Then, a double click. She opened the files. She was reading the fake code, and I could almost feel her excitement, her sense of triumph. She thought she was stealing my future. "She's creating a compressed file," I narrated for Evelyn, my voice a monotone. "She's zipping the entire directory. And now, she's initiating the download." A progress bar appeared on her screen. 0%. This was the most dangerous part. If her connection dropped, if she got spooked, I'd lose her. "Come on, Chloe," I whispered at the screen. "Just take it. Take the bait." The progress bar crept up. 10%, 30%. I watched her open a chat window. It was Leo. "Leo. Anything, Chloe, I'm in. She's so sloppy. I'm grabbing it now. This is the whole thing. Leo. You're brilliant." I saved a screenshot of the chat. The bar hit 99%. Download complete. I watched her move the zip file to her desktop. Then, she started running a track cleaning script, trying to erase her logs. It was adorable. It wouldn't touch the deep system trackers I'd embedded. She closed the connection. She was gone. I sat back in my chair, my entire body trembling with adrenaline. "I have it, Evie," I said. "I have it all. A high-definition, time-stamped screen recording of her entire session. From her IP address at Joe's Coffee, to her logging in, to her chatting with Leo, to her stealing the algorithm. It's all in a tidy 2 GB video file." Evelyn was silent for a beat. "My God, Maya." "This isn't a divorce dispute," I said, saving the file to 3 separate encrypted hard drives. "This isn't a partnership argument. This is industrial espionage, a brand new felony, committed this afternoon, to further the original fraud. We have them. We have them cold." The invitation arrived just 2 weeks after Chloe's digital break-in. It was a sleek, embossed card delivered by courier, a laughable formality given he knew I was locked out of my own home. They were officially launching Vance Innovations. Leo's arrogance was stratospheric. He wasn't just launching the company he'd stolen, he was throwing a gala. He booked the grand ballroom at the Four Seasons, inviting every major VC in Texas, the entire Austin tech press, and even city council members. He was so confident in the code Chloe had secured, so sure of my defeat, that he was parading his victory in front of the very people who had blacklisted me. He was presenting my stolen work, or rather, my decoy, as his salvation. The press release, which Evelyn read aloud to me, praised his resilience in the face of internal volatility and his newfound agility since restructuring. It was disgusting. "He's not just building a company," I said, staring at the invitation. "He's building a narrative where he's the hero. Then we have to give them a different ending," Evelyn replied. She was already on the phone, confirming the event's security protocols. On the night of the launch, I didn't feel the panic I'd felt in Maui. I didn't feel the hollow grief I'd felt in my empty penthouse. I felt a cold, humming stillness. I felt like an engineer about to run a final, critical diagnostic. I didn't have access to my old wardrobe, so I'd used the last of my emergency cash on a single outfit. It was a dark navy power suit, tailored to perfection. It was armor. Evelyn met me by the elevators, not in her usual courtroom attire, but in a severe, elegant black dress. She carried a thin, unremarkable silver laptop bag. Inside it were 3 encrypted USB drives, one with the bank records, one with the 6 months of chat logs, and one with the main event, the screen recording of Chloe's hack. We walked into the ballroom at 7:30, right as the cocktails were ending. We didn't sneak in. We walked straight past the check-in desk, and the frantic intern who saw us was too stunned to stop us. The room was exactly what I'd expected. It was suffocatingly Leo. Low blue lighting, waiters passing champagne and ridiculously small appetizers, and a low thrum of electronic music. A massive Vance Innovations logo was projected onto a screen that took up the entire back wall of the stage. The room was packed. I saw investors who had refused my calls. I saw former colleagues who had ghosted me. The whispers started instantly, a wave of shock rippling through the crowd as I walked in. I could read their faces. "How dare she show her face here? She looks good. This is going to be a scene." We found a spot against the back wall, perfectly visible, right as the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage, and there he was. Leo strode out, a wireless microphone in hand, his suit perfect, his smile blinding. He radiated confidence. He was born for this. Thank you. Austin," he began, his voice booming with manufactured warmth. "They say that true innovation, true disruption, doesn't come from a place of comfort. It comes from making hard choices. It comes from having the courage to tear down what isn't working, to build something stronger in its place." He was talking about me. The entire room knew it. He was painting me as the thing that wasn't working. "And I couldn't have done it," he continued, his voice softening, "without my partner in this journey, our brilliant head of engineering, Chloe Benson." Chloe walked out from the wings. She was in a stunning, bright red dress, her hair perfect. She looked 23 and triumphant. He kissed her, right there on the stage, in front of everyone. The press cameras flashed. It was their official debut. And then, as the applause died down, Leo's eyes scanned the room. He was looking for the VCs, for the reporters. His eyes swept the back wall, and he found me. His smile didn't falter, but it froze. The light in his eyes went out. It was the same look he'd given me in Maui. Chloe, seeing his expression, followed his gaze. Her face, flushed with victory, went completely white. She looked like she was going to be sick. Leo recovered first. He'd always been the better actor. He gave a slight, almost invisible nod to the side of the stage. Two bulky hotel security guards immediately detached from the wall and started moving toward us. They were going to throw me out. Quietly, professionally, but publicly. It was the final move. The crazy wife crashing the party. Just as he'd told everyone I would. The guards reached us. "Ma'am," the first one said, his voice low but firm. "We need to ask you to come with us." He put his hand on my elbow. The entire room was watching. The presentation had stopped. The silence was absolute. I didn't look at the guard. I didn't even look at Evelyn. I locked eyes with Leo, who was still standing on that stage, a mask of pained concern on his face. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, my voice quiet but carrying in the silence. "Ma'am, this is a private event," the guard insisted, his grip tightening. "Leo!" I called out, my voice clear and strong. The microphone on stage was sensitive enough to pick it up. "Are you really going to have me removed? Your wife? Your co-founder?" He tried to smile, the picture of a man being patient with a difficult woman. "Maya, please," he said into the microphone. "This isn't the time or the place. You're embarrassing yourself." "You're right," I said, taking a step forward. The guards hesitated, unsure. Evelyn stepped beside me. "This isn't the place for a personal discussion. This is a business meeting, and I have something for your new investors." I looked past Leo, past Chloe, to the front row, to the men and women from Silver Arc Industries and the VC firms, who were all watching this domestic drama with undisguised horror. "I think," I said, my voice ringing with absolute cold calm, "your investors are going to want to see this." Leo scoffed, a desperate, arrogant sound, and turned back to the crowd. He was trying to push past the interruption, to regain control. My apologies. Ladies and gentlemen, a truly unfortunate and, frankly, unstable interruption. Security will handle it." He turned back to the massive screen, his voice regaining its practiced, booming confidence. "Now, as I was saying, the true breakthrough, the technology that will change this industry, is our new, proprietary V-Core algorithm." He was boasting about my decoy, my trap. That was the signal. I looked across the room and gave Evelyn a single, sharp nod. Evelyn, who had already briefed the hotel manager on a significant intellectual property dispute and had gotten his full cooperation, moved calmly toward the AV booth at the back. The technician, who had been instructed to follow her lead, took the USB drive she offered. Leo was mid-sentence. "This new code, developed exclusively in-house by our team at Vance Innovations, is projected to increase efficiency by over 50%. His microphone cut out. The sound in the ballroom died. He tapped the mic. "Hello, Tech." Then, the massive screen behind him flickered. His sleek Vance Innovations logo vanished, replaced by the mundane, familiar image of a laptop desktop. A confused murmur swept the crowd. Leo turned, his face tightening with annoyance. "What is this? Get that off there. Get my presentation back up." But it was too late. The screen recording began to play. The entire silent ballroom, the investors, the press. My former colleagues watched a real-time video. They saw the IP address trace back to Joe's Coffee. They watched the hacker's cursor fly, bypassing the first firewall. They saw the mouse hover, then double-click the decoy folder, Ethelred, V2, Core, Algo. And then, clear as day, a chat window popped up on the hacker's screen. Chloe, I'm in. She's so sloppy. I'm grabbing it now. This is the whole thing. Leo, you're brilliant. A collective, audible gasp went through the room. Chloe, on stage, made a small, strangled sound. The timestamp in the corner of the video was clear last Tuesday. Before Leo could even process the first hit, the screen cut again. The video was gone. Now. It was bank statements. Ethelred's corporate account on the left, Vance Innovations, LLC on the right. Bright red. Damning arrows traced the transfers. $10 million from Silver Arc Industries. Diverted. $600,000. Memo condo down payment. $90,000. Payee Tesla Motors. $2 million. Memo VC Series B transfer. The venture capitalists in the front row, the men who had signed that Series B check, were now on their feet. Their faces were white with a cold, precise fury. This wasn't a domestic dispute. This was theft. The air in the room was solid. No one moved. Lies! Leo finally roared, his voice cracking. He grabbed the microphone, which was live again. Turn it off. That is all fake. It's doctored. She's insane. She's trying to sabotage us. Security, get her out of here. Mr. Vance. The voice was calm, female, and amplified by the quiet. It came from the main entrance. The ballroom doors had swung open, and a man and a woman in dark, immaculate suits were walking down the center aisle. They were not hotel security. They were FBI. Evelyn had hand-delivered the wire fraud evidence and the espionage video that morning. This launch party was just the perfect place to execute the warrant. They walked past me, past Evelyn, and stopped directly at the foot of the stage, looking up. Leo Vance, the agent asked again. Leo froze, his face ashen. Chloe Benson. Chloe was openly sobbing now, clutching Leo's arm. You both need to come with us. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound I had ever heard, and then the explosion. The press, who had been stunned into silence, erupted. Camera flashes turned the room into a strobe light, capturing every detail as Leo and Chloe were cuffed on their own stage, under the projections of their own stolen bank records. They were led down the aisle, past the investors they'd betrayed, past the press they'd invited, and right past me. Leo wouldn't even look at me. The next morning, the Austin Tech Beat headline was different. Ethelred Coupe, reversed Maya Sterling Reclaims Company as co-founders, are arrested for fraud. Later, after the crowds and the police were gone, I stood on that empty stage. The technicians were cleaning up. The bright lights were on. I looked out at the empty ballroom. My career wasn't ruined. It was just starting again. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you are listening from, so please comment below and share your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and hit that hype button to help this story be heard by more people.